Ladies and gents, welcome to Jury Reaction. This is Miscellaneous Miss Chulainn by the channel only Sarcastic production. It has brought to my attention that I really can't pronounce Chulainn. Yeah, most people can probably. You ask and it was delivered. Here are some of the tales of Chulainn, legendary hero and human disaster. Okay. Yeah, I don't know which myth is this from, which culture, but it's gonna be fun. Chulainn. Could it be old American? Mesoamerican, whatever you call that. I don't know. Only Sarcastic Production is a great channel. I love reacting to this channel. You know, all the mythologies of different cultures, even the history is just awesome. I read quite a few Only Sarcastic Production videos already. If you haven't seen them, check out the cards. There's a playlist uploaded for it. Only Sarcastic Production, something like that. Also, to upload videos more than 3 in 24 hours, so you might have missed some of the videos because you might have not gotten a notification for it. So check out the playlist. You know, all the videos are there. Check out the playlist too, like Real Life Lore, Cause in a Nutshell, CGP Grey, Internet Historian, Tier Zoo, and yeah. Let's use this one.
Today we're going to be talking about some Celtic mythology, but on the subject of Celtic myths, this video is sponsored by the Legends, Myths, and Whiskey podcast, who've released a mytho-symphony of Beowulf. It's a part dramatic reading, part literary analysis of our favorite story of a compulsive drinker turned giant wrestler turned dragon killer, so stay tuned to the end of the video for more information. Why isn't Celtic mythology well known? I mean, Scotland and Ireland are like right next to England, and God knows England couldn't help but get their culture all up and everywhere. But for some reason, despite the cultural proximity, Celtic mythology really isn't all that widespread. Well, here's the thing. In the 5th century, Christianity steamrolled into Ireland and Scotland and proceeded to royally screw up all the local lore. Scottish goddesses got revamped as simple magical warriors or hags, while the poor Tuatha De Danann went from being Irish gods to being ancient human kings, queens, or in the fancier cases, fallen angels. Because Christianity has this thing about worshipping other gods, the local deities had to be reimagined into something that wasn't gods, but they had to do it in a way that wouldn't totally piss off the locals, and as a consequence, the mythology ended up being flattened into...
Yeah, Christianity doesn't do the Roman thing, like just, you know, see the version of the god and think of them as the alternative version of the same god or something like that, or just the different name of the same god, something like that. No, they are not gods. These locals, they are mistaken. They were just kings or at best fallen angels.
Quasi-historical folklore about ancient kings or queens who just happened to have fabulous godlike power. The reason why Celtic mythology isn't well known is because the 5th century missionary efforts to Ireland and Scotland did their absolute damnedest to pretend it wasn't a mythology, and because they're the ones that wrote that stuff down, their version is what we have to go on. This makes the anthropologist in my heart very sad. But the good part about this is that because the missionary efforts focused on writing all their stuff down, most of the stories actually survived to the modern day, albeit stripped of context, and little bits of the mythology managed to survive almost completely unaltered because they weren't about gods. They were about extraordinary people from the get-go. As a result, the Christianization efforts didn't squash or rewrite their stories because they weren't doing that no gods before me thing. The most notable of these cases is the tale of a magnificent human disaster by the moniker of Chulainn. Now, Chulainn has a metric butt-ton of stories, and to be honest, it's not totally accurate to say he wasn't a god, because several scholars on the subject agree he's probably an incarnation of the warrior king Lu, a member of the Tuatha De Danann and god of all things protagonisty. Further confusing matters, Lu is also his father. Practically speaking, Chulainn being an incarnation of a god never factors into the story, so we're free to pretend like this lineage makes even a modicum of sense. So Chulainn starts his life with a story that has too many versions to be consistent, but it boils down to special baby conceived 3 times, dad is probably Lu. As a kid, he gets up to all kinds of adorable shenanigans, including murdering Chulainn the Smith's guard dog and offering to guard his house to make up for it, earning him the name Chulainn, which literally translates to Hound of Chulainn, because see, he's basically a substitute guard dog.
So why did he kill the dog then?
He also manages to rope himself into a particularly tragic prophecy at the ripe old age of 7, where he dooms himself to glory and fame at the cost of a very short life. Then he hulks out and kills these 3 guys, but is brought down by the power of boobs. Oh, the hulking thing isn't just hyperbole. Chulainn has this...
Wait a minute, he has a short life because of this prophecy. So, okay.
Thing called a warp spasm, where his body kind of turns inside out and he turns into this giant pile of sinew and rage and then kills everything. Metal. The boob thing isn't hyperbole either. The men of Ulster had to calm him down somehow, so they embarrass him with boobs and then dunk him in a barrel of water until he changed.
Hold up there. So this guy is literally Hulk. This is where the Hulk thing comes from. Damn. Because this feels like the inspiration where Hulk would have come from. And what's...
Thing isn't hyperbole either. The men of Ulster had to calm him down somehow, so they embarrass him with boobs and...
Okay, embarrass. Are we sure it's embarrassed or just calm him down by, oh, look at that, ooh, shiny, something like that?
And then dunk him in a barrel of water until he changes back. I wish more characters used this tactic when their friends turned evil. So Chulainn gets a little older and becomes a really pretty teenager, so all the Ulster dudes decide they need to marry him off as soon as possible or he'll start magnetically attracting all their wives and daughters. So Chulainn is obviously down for a bride, but he's got his heart set on a very specific bride, Emmer, the daughter of the Sky Forgal Monarch, who doesn't want a great hero for a son-in-law for some reason, and as always happens in stories like these, sends the lad off on a quest in the hopes that it'll kill him. In this case, he suggests that Chulainn go and train with the warrior goddess Skaha on the Isle of Skye. So Chulainn trains with Skaha, an impossibly badass warrior woman who teaches him how to use this absolutely terrifying spear called the Gae Bulaga, which you stab someone with and then it snaps out these spines.
Spear of mortal pain. Crazy barbs, kills instantly. Thrown by the foot? What? Carved from the bone of the corn cane? I don't know what that is.
And frankly, it sounds like cleanup alone would make it impractical to use, but whatever. Also training under Skaha is the warrior Ferdiad, who becomes close buds and battle brothers with Chulainn. So Skaha mentors Chulainn and Ferdiad and trains them in the art of war. But unfortunately, a dark shadow from her past comes back to haunt her in the form of, and I'm not making this up, her evil twin sister Aoife. She knows that fighting her sister might end up killing her, and she doesn't want to involve the children in her personal battles, so she slips Chulainn a sleeping potion to keep him safe and out of the fight.
What is this? Daily soap? Where'd that come from? Sudden twist?
But in case Chulainn wasn't anime protagonisty enough yet, he sleeps off the potion in less than an hour and dives into the fray to help. He ends up defeating Aoife with the old look behind you trick and spares her life, on the condition that she call off her blood feud with Skaha and also have his kid, which she does. Cool? How old is he again? So Chulainn returns.
Wait a minute, let me get this straight. So this guy wants to marry someone, so he asks her father to marry her basically, and the father doesn't want him to marry her daughter, so he basically sends him off with this warrior goddess thing, Skaha, whatever. He trains with her, and suddenly a twist comes the way, I guess, daily soap style. Ska's evil sister comes back to fight her. Ska basically, puts him to sleep because she doesn't want him to be, I guess, casualty of war or something like that. But he suddenly pops back up, tricks her, the Ska's sister, and basically defeats her. Then bangs her, apparently. Because I'm pretty sure this is not some Jesus story type of thing. I'm pretty sure he bangs her. Because how else, how else does that work? And then, what? He's gonna go back and ask for the hand of the original person that he wanted to marry? I'm pretty sure this is the story that every daily soap writer aspire to or think about when they want to write something.
Returns home, now like 3 times as badass, to marry Emmer, but unfortunately Forgal still doesn't want him to marry her, so Chulainn storms the castle, kills a bunch of guys, and runs off with Emmer. And then Forgal dies. I love fairy tale endings. Now the chronology is a little
that's one of the most simplistic way, Hulk smash mentality right there. Okay, you don't want to give a hand? Okay, I'm going to kill everybody and just literally take her.
And at some point Chulainn unknowingly kills his son because Aoife forbade the kid from telling him his name and Chulainn doesn't respond to being denied well. But when Chulainn is 17, he ends up having to single-handedly take down an entire army led by Queen Maeve, who's
now he's 17.
Invading Ulster to steal a prized bull. Priorities, lady. The single-handed part is because the Ulster army is incapacitated thanks to an ancient curse from the goddess Macha, who'd been forced by the king of Ulster to run a foot race against horses while pregnant with twins. She won the race, then cursed the men of Ulster to suffer from labor pains in their hour of need.
Got to be kidding me. How to hear that again?
He is incapacitated thanks to an ancient curse from the goddess Macha, who'd been forced by the king of Ulster to run a foot race against horses while pregnant with twins. She won the race.
What is this, man?
Then cursed the men of Ulster to suffer from labor pains in their hour of need because, seriously, dude, dick move. But because Chulainn was just 17, you know what I mean, he didn't count as a man yet and was free to fight. So Chulainn holds off the army and then invokes the right of single combat and fights Maeve's army one at a time over the course of several months. In true protagonisty fashion, despite rampant cheating from Maeve's armies, Chulainn continues to flawlessly hold them off for quite some time. After a little misadventure with the goddess Morrigan, Chulainn ends up facing down a significant portion of Maeve's army all at once, armed only with 2 spears, a sword, and a shield, and he ends up getting severely injured as a result. However, upon seeing the shenanigans he's been getting up to, Chulainn's father Lou pops out of fairyland to give him a hand. So Lou is like, "Hello, Chulainn, it is I, your fairy dad mother," and then knocks him out for 3 days so he can heal him with magic. But unfortunately, there's still the army thing, and in the absence of Chulainn, the only people who can fight are the Youth Corps, a group of young royal children being trained as warriors. Unsurprisingly, they all die. So when Chulainn wakes up and learns all his little buddies are dead, he warp spasms like he's never warp spasmed before and
I think she should have made this video 20 minutes long by stretching out all these points, because she's running past these points and these are just great ones. These warrior children like, oh, we are the warrior, and suddenly just dies because they are fucking children, obviously. And the cooker wakes up, is like, all the children are dead, and then suddenly start to green or whatever, like Hulk style, and just comes out there. Look at this shit.
Slaughters a large chunk of the enemy army as payback. Then they do the whole single combat thing again, culminating in Chulainn having to fight his buddy Ferdiad from back when they trained together under Skahach. Very sad and all that. He ends up having to use his ultimate secret technique, the Gaia Bolga, to take down the battle brother he once trained beside. This is also when we see exactly what the Gaia Bolga does. See, you throw it with the foot at the intended target, and then once the Gaia Bolga enters the body, these barbs explode outward and spread through the veins and arteries until Ferdiad is basically a thorn bush with skin. Metal. So yeah, Ferdiad dies, and the men of Ulster get over their collective labor pains and actually start contributing to the battle. Now in some versions, this is where Chulainn dies of injuries sustained fighting his battle brother. In another version of his death story, Queen Maeve conspires with this guy Lugaid to have Chulainn killed. First they need to break his guys on not eating dog meat, which weakens him spiritually. Then Lugaid uses these 3 magical spears to kill first his charioteer, then his horse, and then him. Chulainn, however, doesn't go down easily, and ties himself to a standing stone so that he can face his enemies on his own 2 feet, even after death. In this case, his enemies don't believe that he's dead until a raven lands on his.
This could have been some of the anime type of story. I can already see it. Damn, this is so good, man. I've never come across any mythology story like this. This is so cool. He's like, I'm not done yet. I'm gonna tie myself with a rock so I could stand straight so I can fight you. What?
His shoulder, at which point Lugaid goes to cut off his head, at which point Chulainn explodes with holy light and his sword falls down, chopping off Lugaid's hand, because even in death, Chulainn will ruin your day. Metal. I'm bleeding out, so if the
Chulainn really didn't get to do much before biting it, but at least he left behind a good looking corpse. Yeah, I mean, yeah, wait a minute. His life was short, look at that. I mean, that is one of the thing about the curse or whatever.
Last thing that I do is bring.
The battle between Chulainn and Ferdiad is actually pretty heartstring tugging, since they slowly grow apart over the course of the days they fight, going from almost playful banter and sharing a campfire to full-on rage-fueled attempted and not so attempted murder. Okay, again, I'm feeling like, you know, she should have made this video more like 20 minutes or something, like she's doing nowadays. Hades videos were what, 30 minutes or something? Hades and Persephone, and the current one, what the, yeah. So I think she should have made this, because she should have, you know, explained this in more detail. This feels like there was so much content to this and she just talked past it. Damn, neither of them wanted to fight, but Ferdiad was more willing to sacrifice this friendship.
You down, I'll bleed out for you, so I bear my.
Most representations of the aftermath show Chulainn cradling his fallen former friend, because my emotion.
Skin, and I count my sins and I close my eyes.
Yeah, Queen Mary's big old
and I
meanie.
take it in, I'm bleeding out.
Drawing the Reastrad was fun. I hardly ever get to draw grotesque characters. Of warped spasm, Chulainn is about as grotesque as it gets. Yeah, seriously, this is Hulk level shit, isn't it? I think this is where the Hulk comes from, I'm pretty sure, because there's way too similar for it to be coincidence.
I'm bleeding out for you, for you.
Yeah, this was awesome, and this story was so good. I hope I didn't miss some of the points, because there was so much content to this short video. But yeah, this was really daily soap style, isn't it? First of all, the warrior that trains him suddenly has an evil sister that comes back, and then Chulainn bangs her, obviously. And then in the end, the buddy that he trains with in the air has to fight with him and die in the process. And that spear thing that basically goes inside the body and suddenly, you know, barbs come out. Oh, this is way too much detail. I love this. Alright people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction, there's a link in the description. Check out the cast of the playlist, check out the end cards, and I'll see you next time.